Hi, kids. Okay, next up is Casablanca, originally released November 26th, 1942. It is based on a unproduced play, originally called Rick's, later titled Everybody Comes to Rick's. That play is written by Murray Burnett and Joan Allison. Murray conceived of the idea for Rick's when he was helping some Jewish family members smuggle money out of Vienna. So he took a trip over there to help them. Uh, when he gets there, he's told that because he's Jewish, the only place he can stay is the Hotel de France. So that's where he stays. He says that he's in the lobby in the hotel, and there's just people upset and crying all over the place. People from all over trying to escape. Um, just refugees. There's refugees everywhere. Later in his trip, he is in France and he ends up in a French nightclub that happens to be a jazz nightclub. So those things mixed together go into Rick's, what becomes Everybody Comes to Rick's. Murray and Joan had written a play together prior to Everybody Comes to Rick's that was also very anti-Nazi. Otto Preminger, director, was very interested in adapting that for the screen. Ultimately didn't happen. But the script, the play is unproduced, but the studio buys it and they pay for what at the time was a record $20,000 for an unproduced play. And then they go about adapting it. They assign two writers to it, twin brothers Julius and Philip Epstein. So the two of them go to work. They work on the overall structure, everything. They're working on it. And then because the war happened, because the U.S. is now involved, I mentioned in Miss Miniver, things are changing now. Frank Capra, film director, he goes and makes a series of propaganda films for the government called Why We Fight, and he asks the brothers to join him, help him make these films, and they say yes. The studio is not very happy because they just lost their writers. So another writer is assigned, Howard Koch. He works on that. Eventually the brothers come back. They will work resumes. Production starts, but because of that Hays Code that we get to mention all the time on here, there are things that cannot happen in the film that happen in the play, so they have to work around. A married woman cannot be sleeping with someone who is not her husband, so for flashback sequence they have to make things explicit. And for the ending, it's a love story, right? Bogey should get the girl, but Bogey can't get the girl if the girl is married. So they discussed having Victor Laszlo, her husband, killed. And would that be okay if then she runs away with Bogey, with Rick? So because they were unsure, they filmed it in sequence. They're still figuring out the ending. They're still figuring out a lot of things. There was another writer that's brought on to work on it as they're filming. That writer is Casey Robinson. And Ingrid Bergman had said that not knowing how it was going to end, what was happening, she said it aided her performance because her character, right, doesn't know what's happening, how it's going to end. So, yeah, they film it, and the cast, right? It's, as much as it's a love story, it's also sort of a refugee story. There's a lot of different faces from different places in the film. It doesn't really feel entirely like a Hollywood film because of the different languages and the accents and everything that is present on the screen that are authentic, right? So we've got Bogart is an American, Bergman is Swedish, Paul Henreid, who plays Victor Laszlo, he is Austrian, Claude Rains is British, Sidney Greenstreet is British, Conrad de Veit, the German, is German, and Peter Lorre is Hungarian. So it's quite a mix. It's quite a cast, a little bit of a Maltese Falcon reunion there. But the studio, despite that cast, despite the director, Michael Curtis, being the director, I've mentioned him a little bit in my horror series, the studio wasn't quite sure what they had, if it would be a hit. It's an unproduced play, so they're not sure how audiences are going to respond. The war has, for the Americans anyways, just started, so they're not sure how that's going to end. They decided to, for Rick's motivations, to make it more sense for Rick and for some of the other things that happen on screen, they decided that the film takes place prior to Pearl Harbor. Handmaid's Tale fans, Nick Blaine is just an homage to Rick Blaine. Everybody comes to Rick's. So the movie's released. It had about a $1.1 million budget. Gets $3.7 million at the box office. Nominated for 8 Academy Awards. Of course, we're talking about it because it wins Best Picture, wins Best Director, and it wins Best Screenplay. Michael Curtis wins the Best Director. It was his second win in 8 years. He had been nominated 6 times in those 8 years. One of those years, he was nominated twice for 2 different films. He was nominated for Angels with Dirty Faces and 4 Daughters. Despite being nominated twice, I think there might have been only 4 nominees that year, maybe 5. At any rate, him taking up 40% or 50% of the nominations, he still didn't win. Frank Capra, that guy from earlier. Frank Capra wins for Angels with Dirty Faces. Anyways, and then of course, the screenplay, the lines, AFI has their list of the 100 greatest movie lines. Casablanca is tied with the most lines from the film on that list with 6, tied with The Wizard of Oz. Even if you haven't seen Casablanca, you know all those lines. They're just a part of culture. When they did their first list of 100 greatest films, Casablanca is named number 2. When they revisited it 10 years later, Casablanca fell to number 3. So Casablanca, not too bad for a movie that the studio didn't really have a lot of faith in. There we go. That's Casablanca. Next, we're gonna go and we're gonna talk about another William Wyler film. Okay, thanks guys. Hit like, hit subscribe, tell all your friends. I think this could be the start of a beautiful friendship.